just over 6 months from the war, went way advanced, way more than even with the technology Germany had. Have you ever looked at that? It's really strange.
Yeah, and there's quite a few stories about that, actually, because, when the Americans first found the German jets, they couldn't figure out, what in the world is that? It's got no propellers on it. So they started looking into that, and they tore it down, of course, and the jet engine is pretty simple to back engineer. It's not a simple instrument, but it's simple to back engineer when you start taking things apart and duplicating them. And Wendell Stevens, a friend of mine here in Tucson, Colonel Wendell Stevens, had him on my TV show in Tucson several times, and we were talking about this, and he said that didn't take them long at all to duplicate much of the German technologies, because the Germans were way ahead. In fact, Wendell Stevens told me that they were at the end, about 2 months before the invasion of Germany, there was a bombing raid that came from England. There was 800 bombers that came in over Germany, and they all had their targets, and they went to drop the bombs. And then, during that night, they said they lost a third of them in one night. And they realized that something came up behind the airplanes, and these 800 airplanes, and they used something called a klystron tube, which is a directional EM pulse generator. And they aimed that at the aircraft. When these flying discs came up behind the airplanes, aimed the klystron tube at it, and it shut down the electrical system. So engines stopped, and they ended up crashing. And the Allied forces realized, we got to do something here, because we are going to lose the war. So they put the Normandy invasion together. It was done in a hurry, and they botched it really bad. That's why it died so many people on the shores there. But the flying discs were starting to be used in the war at the very end. They didn't use them before.
It just, even though that would happen, I mean, then if they had those capabilities, then they should have technically won the war, because they were, even towards the end of the war, if they had flying discs or help, for example, from another, from friends out there, it makes me wonder, they should have won the war.
They would have if it had gone on a little further. After that one night, there were very little bombing over Germany, because they kept losing their airplanes. So they realized that we don't have air superiority anymore, so we got to invade on the ground, and that's what they did. And of course also, the German high-ranking echelon in the military, they realized a few years after, probably by 42 or 40 or 41, they realized that we could very well lose this war because of Hitler's expansion efforts. He wanted to take hold of Europe, and they figured that this is actually some thought from that come out of people that was in the Norwegians that was in the concentration camps in Europe. They talked to the guards, and they told them that they figured that sooner or later the whole world will turn on us because of his expansionist efforts. And if that happens, we'll lose the war. So that's probably why they ended up going to Antarctica and create Base 211, which is a huge cavern deep under the ground in Antarctica. And they moved a lot of hardware down there. Many of the flying discs were flown down there. According to Colonel Wendell Stevens, there's 163 known flying discs that the Germans had during the reign.
Now, question is, is there still control of Nazis in Antarctica?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That base 211 there, it's in the, they call it the Neue Schwabenland, or New Swabia, or there's, I guess, other terms for it, but it's deep underground and below the ice cap, and it's been growing. Right now, there's probably somewhere close to 2 million people down there. A lot of the Germans, especially the ones with skills, they were moved down there, and they moved women down there so they could have families, and now they're traveling back and forth. Many of these people from 211, the base 211, they have German passports, and they travel around the world. They're doing like we do. They're banking, and they many of them left, actually, Neue Schwabenland, and came back to Germany and are living there.
So what do you think their purpose is?
They are a very integral part of the secret space program that the United States and part of the dark operations of the Russians are there. I would presume the Brits are in it, because they usually are. But otherwise, there are other races from space. You can talk to some of these people that has been on these operations, 20 and back, they call it, when they go out there and are on the moon or Mars for 20 years, and they come back. They have some really interesting stories to talk about. But I know the base in Antarctica is entirely German. And there's a huge amount of people down there. I'm looking at Tucson, where I live. It's a spread-out city, and it's about 1 million people all together with the suburbs. And this one is about the same size. It's just that there's a lot more higher buildings than it is in Tucson. So I predict it to be about close to 2 million, maybe 1.5 million.
See, what I heard, too, is people, like, in the different, how can I say it, they believe that they, fought wars from different planets and, different alien species, and say that we do have bases on the moon, we have bases on Mars. There's a attorney up in Longview, Washington, not more than 90 miles from me, that claims that he was on, one of those forces at one point. But the thing is, they all said the same thing, that the Germans were really not very friendly. They were really aggressive. Yeah,
they are, and that's their nature. See, even today, they consider themselves a little superior to most other nations. When it comes to technology, they probably are, because they make really good stuff.
Well, you know what? Financially, they're one of the more stable countries in the world. If you think of what happened to them after World War II, I mean, they virtually had no industry, nothing. Now, yes, we build them up a little bit, but they have taken that to a level where they became a world leader financially.
Yep. Yeah, they sure have. Yeah. And, but when it comes into governments, there were, I'm trying to think of the guy's name, the chief of staff for Hitler. After the war, he became the chief of staff of NATO. So you see, Germany came back in power again. The Germans infiltrated the American government both in industry, in science, in medical experiments, and of course NASA. and they created a very close-knit communication system where they were communicating with themselves and they didn't tell the American what they were talking about. And they got infiltrated into the government, and many of the German text manuals are implemented as text manuals in the American government.
Very interesting.
Different language, different phrases.
Well, I will say this. What is your name? Because our time is running out here. What is the name of your show?
I got two of them, actually. Well, kind of three now. One of them is BroadcastTeamAlpha.com. And on YouTube, we are at Broadcast Team Alpha. And then I have the Universal Consciousness Show. And you can go to the website there. That's universal-consciousness-show.com. And I got a huge picture gallery here and a lot of blogs with unbelievable things in it. So just go have a look at it. And I also started a mastermind group, and this one I'm really excited about because we are getting some phenomenal results. The mastermind is where two or more minds are united in harmony. They create a third mind that has the potential mind power of the two of them multiplied by each other. And when we get a lot of people together, concentrate our thinking in one direction, we change the laws of physics to the point where we can create things that is totally impossible. Join us on that one. Send us an email to the mastermindconnection@gmail.com. The mastermindconnection@gmail.com, and I will get you a link to go in and join us on the mastermind.
Great. Now, what day of the week do you put this stuff out?
The mastermind I'm doing on Sunday at 11 o'clock California time. And the Broadcast Team Alpha I'm doing at, it's 8 o'clock in the evening East Coast time, which is 5 o'clock in the evening California time.
Yeah, Pacific time, yes.
And I'll tell you, there's another book here, Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. In there, I talk about stuff that you're not supposed to know about. One of them is, in 2009, there were 3 doctors that got the Nobel Prize for discovering an enzyme that reverses the aging process, and nobody told you about it. I am doing it. It's simple to do, and I'm getting results, and I explain in the book how to do it. And also I talk about time travel in there. Yes, you can. There is a way that you can actually do it with the mind. So think about that. Just go to Amazon and look on there. There is many different subjects in there. I got all the subjects listed there. You can see what it looks like.
And also you can go to our website. I got a link to it. On it, so you can see a little bit about it, and then go on, order it on Amazon. My friend, like the last time you were on, it was very interesting to have you on and refreshing.
Well, thank you.
And we covered a lot of subjects, you know that.
Yeah, and there's still a lot more.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe 2 months down the road, we'll get you back on and we'll do more.
Sounds good.
Okay, my friend, you take care.
All right, you too. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you for having me on.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, James, we're down to like the last 15 minutes, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you.
That was good.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with a lot of stuff he says. It makes sense. I don't know about the, Germany having, all these flying discs, but, again, who knows? But if they did have it, I think they would have won the war.
Well, I have seen actual pictures of some of the discs that they had. I do think there was a few major things that why they didn't win the war. One Hitler was a 10-year meth addict. He shot up every day of crystal meth 3 times a day. That was one. And number two, they pretty much had War One at Dunkirk, and they just let him go, which, that's probably because of the bad decisions from meth, thank God, or we'd probably all be Sprickelsy Deutsch.
Yeah, but, again, Antarctica